Hello sim boys and sim girls, this is J-RYDS here. If you're new to the channel then welcome, and in a nutshell what I'm doing is learning how to become a sim pilot by flying around the world in FS 2020. I'm also learning how to make YouTube videos by documenting the journey. On release day I chose my plane, which is a Diamond DA40, and basically buggered off around the world to learn as I go. So in this video I'd like to share something that I think would be beneficial to new sim pilots when it comes to planning their routes, and as you can see it is windy.com. You can use Windy to check for wind speed and direction, but it also has a bit more functionality that is useful for sim flying, so let's take a look. Now you can log in, it accepts users in Windy. You can see my logo there. I tried to change it to white for this, but Windy doesn't seem to accept it. So if you're going to do that, make sure that you're happy with your logo and how it would display, because I've tried to change that to white, but it sticks with the original upload that I put on there. So anyway, so you can log into Windy, and then once you're in, you can see the map and it will default to wherever you are. I'm based around here in southern Sweden. Make sure that you've got the wind checked, and then you can see the arrows, and that's the wind direction. And down here we've got a little scale which gives you the chart based on the color, and you can click to change units as well. So that's in knots, and we've got I think that's the Beaufort scale, meters per second, miles per hour. And I'm from the UK, but I've lived in Sweden via Spain for years now, so I kind of think in kilometers per hour. But you can see that in the red, that's pretty much conditions that you don't want to be flying in. The UK is having a pretty bad day of it weather-wise. Where I am, over in Sweden, Northern Europe, it's not too bad. The weather seems to be a bit better. So put the wind on, and then ECMWF, I did have a look at this, but it's the forecast model, as you can see there. So that's the European Centre for Meteorological Weather Forecasting. European Centre for Meteorological Weather Forecasting, bit of a tongue twister. I think these ones are for other regions of the world, but if you're in Europe, then click on the European Centre, and it'll give you the most up-to-date forecast that is going. It's all real time. So how to use Windy to plan your routes. If you have a look here, you can turn on additional icons or layers, and the one that we're looking at today is the airports layer. And you've probably already seen, but you can see all the green dots, and it's just like Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. They're all airports, land helipads. They're places that a vehicle of the sky can land. So just as in the game, if we zoom in, it's the major airports. You zoom in, and then it gives you other airports. So we've got Vangsjö Airport. We've got, if you hover over, maybe that's not popping up. We've got Eskilstuna Airport, and that's Bromma, that's Stockholm's city airport. And then the main international airport for Sweden is Arlanda. And if I go to the map, so I'll link to this in the description if you're interested, but I've gone in to create a My Map in Google, and on the left hand side you can see all the legs that I've done. So I'm currently at Stockholm Arlanda, and I won't do it in this video, but I thought showing people how to use Windy might be quite useful, so I'll make this a separate video and then I'll reference this in the next video. So what I'm going to do is take off from Stockholm, head east over to a place called Hirby, and I can never find it. Hirby is Sala. There it is. So I'm going to head over here, basically going over there. There's no airport there, but that's where my girlfriend grew up. So I'm going to show her her father's house, and then I'm going to head east again, and then head over to Uppsala, and the airport's around here somewhere. I'm going to do a touch and go there, and then I'm going to head over to Mariehamn, another touch and go, and then for the journey that I'm on, Finland will be my first new country. So I'm going to call it a day at Turku Airport, which is somewhere around there, but we can see on Windy exactly where that is. So if I zoom in to Stockholm Arlanda, which is where my plane is at the minute, you can see that it still shows you the wind direction and also the strength. I don't know if the winds are really in the purple up around Stockholm at the minute, but what we can do is, if we left click anywhere on the map, it shows you what the wind speed is, which is, again, that's super useful. And then you can scroll down and you can see the weather prediction, weather forecast for it. But what we're going to do is plan a VFR route along the course that I just mentioned, and it will give us a whole load more information. So if we go to the hamburger icon and then distance and planning, and it asks you to add your waypoints. So the first waypoint is Stockholm Arlanda. Now, I don't know if I preface this by saying that I'm not I don't have my private pilot's license. I am certainly not a commercial pilot. I have very little flying skills at all, and certainly no qualifications. So this whole journey around the world, I'm hoping to come back and really learn how to use all the proper aviation charts like SkyVector and be able to plan my routes in the kind of detail that proper sim pilots and proper private and commercial pilots are able to do it. But I think Windy is a really good option for people like me who are quite new to this whole thing, and it gives them the kind of detail which is gets them thinking about it. I think it's good for immersion. All right, so we already know, looking at the wind speed, that when we go back into the game, we're going to want to take off on this runway here. Now, it's a pity that you can't zoom in and it doesn't give you the runway heading, which is a bit of a shame, but you can see that, well, I know because I landed on this runway, and hopefully I won't forget, but I think that's 08 and that's 21. Or it might be the other way around. I'm still learning how to do bearings, but heading 2-1, so that's 21, heading around that way, and then 08 is going this way. Right, so I know that I want to take off into the wind, so I know when I go into the game I'm going to ask for a gate or a parking ramp that's closest to the end of this runway, so I know that I'm going to take off on a heading 2-1, and then I can go about my journey. So we're going to select Arlanda as our first waypoint, and then I'm going to try and find Hirby again. Let's look for Uppsala, head left, there's Hirby, so we zoom in. And my girlfriend's father lives around there, I reckon. So that's the next waypoint. Once we reach that, and I've done a low pass just to show her her house, then I'm going to head to Uppsala Airport for a touch and go. So I'm going to click on the airport there. And then for the next leg, we're going to head all the way over to Mariehamn. Now you can see that I didn't click on the airport. I don't think it matters too much, but I like to be exact with things. So I'm just going to drag the cursor, or the leg, over there. And then the next and the final airport for that particular journey is going to be Turku. And then we click it there. Now you've already seen down the bottom that things are changing. I think this first screen is the elevation. So if I zoom out again, if you watch the actual route, as I scroll along it, it gives you information for wherever on the route down the bottom. Yeah, so you can see at sea level it's 0. As we cross over onto the island, it goes up again. So straight away, that's quite useful, isn't it? But the eagle-eyed among you would have seen that there's a VFR option, and this gives you this much information, which is super useful, I think. So we've got the rain, if there's rain, snow. So we've got a weather report. This top half, just above the little hand cursor, is the wind direction. I don't know what these mean yet, so hopefully in the comments there's going to be some more experienced in pilots or pilots who will let me know what these things, why they're different colors. We've got the freezing altitude, and I know that if it's freezing outside you need to put on your pitot tube. So the freezing altitude is just below 2,000 meters, so I find that quite useful. And you can see cloud tops and the cloud base. So on the leg between Arlanda and Hebe, there's not really any clouds. As soon as we get into Hebe, it seems like there's clouds at 2,500 meters, quite a thin layer. So it's not a very cloudy day, and you can see the cloud base rises as we go along. So this is the fourth leg, and then you can scroll along and you can see what the weather's going to be like all the way through, which I think is super useful. And that's about it. Now I'm flying the Diamond DA40. That's the plane. I had a look at it. I fell in love with it. It flies low and slow because there's not much point, I don't think, in just going around the world in a massive jetliner and flying at 40,000 feet and not being able to see anything. Certainly not in a game such as FS 2020. So the regular cruising speed is around about 115 knots, but I never seem to be able to get it to fly level enough to fly at its best cruising speed. So if that's something that you can help with, it always seems to be pitching up at least 3 or 4 degrees, and that's just all. I try and trim the plane, but I seem that it seems to be 98 knots is the best speed that I can go in straight and level flight, even with that pitch up. So you can put in your speed and it will tell you how long it will take to get to where you want to go. So let's change that to 98 knots again. So you can see that it's projecting that it's a 2-hour journey. And then what I can do is reference this, then go into Flight Simulator, add in my waypoints, and then the G1000 will have those waypoints, so I'll be able to autopilot to the second waypoint, take off the autopilot, low pass, autopilot back on, and we should see some lovely mid-Sweden countryside as we go into Finland. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know in the comments if I've got anything wrong. That's the main reason why I'm doing this, is to vlog my journey, and hopefully people who are far more experienced and knowledgeable than me will come in and say, hey J-RYDS, what you said here was kind of right, but you'd have a much better time if you did X, Y, and Z. But if you've never seen Windy before and you think this is useful, then I'd love a like and a subscribe, as everyone says. It's really motivational to make these if I know that people are liking the content. And if I'm getting things wrong, then let me know too. I don't know if I linked to this before, but here's a map of the journey that I'm on. Oh yeah, I did that right in the beginning, didn't I? So yeah, once I've done that, I'll update this here. The plan is to go up and around Finland and then ping pong back and forth across Sweden and Norway, down into Denmark, across Northern Europe, Northwest Europe, up through the United Kingdom, and then I think it's either Iceland or the Faroe Islands. One of the airports, the runway isn't working yet, so hopefully by the time I get all the way down here, as you can see, that's going to take quite a while, but by the time I get down and then back up to Iceland or the Faroe Islands, the runway that isn't working at the minute should be, because the range of the DA40 is about, well, just less than 1,000 kilometers. So if it's still in the current state when I get here, I'm going to have to try and glide for an uncomfortable amount of kilometers over the open Norwegian Sea, which is not going to be ideal. But anyway, I think I'm rambling now. Thanks for tuning into this video. I hope this helps, and if you have any more suggestions that might improve not just my flying but anybody that passes by the channel, then please do let me know. Thank you. Bye bye.